Hi everyone. We're just going to let people trickle in nice and slowly, and then I'll do a little intro and hand you over to Tyson. So just give us about 30, 60 seconds. I think I can probably start now. I think most people have drifted in. Hello and welcome to our first career development event of the Australian College of Applied Professions for 2024. My name is Damien Thompson. I'm the Sydney Campus Industry and Alumni Advisor and the co-host for tonight's webinar. My co-host is Cassie Watson. She's the Industry and Alumni Advisor based in Melbourne. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here tonight. It's now more important than ever to know your online presence or know how your online presence affects you personally and professionally. With over 1 billion users and 3 members joining every second, a major leader in this area is LinkedIn. This workshop is designed to support an understanding of this social media platform and determining the best use for LinkedIn for career growth. Learn how to maximize your profile to bring about connections, personal brand, and opportunities. Now, the boring housekeeping points. As this is a webinar, you are automatically muted and have your video hidden. Attendance certificates and the presentation slides will be emailed to you in the coming days. The chat box has been disabled. You are only able to chat with myself or Cassie there. The Q&A box is open. Whack all your questions in there. That's the best bait for that. Now, Tyson, I think that's the intro done, and I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Damien. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me on this webinar on thriving on LinkedIn. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been fortunate enough to work with the ACAP community for, I think this is like my 6th year. So maybe even 7. That's spooky. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here tonight and to talk to you about this process of LinkedIn. And we're going to jump right in. What I will say though is if you are attending this webinar and we're not already connected, myself and you on LinkedIn, please feel free to connect with myself on LinkedIn. This is about positive use cases for LinkedIn, and a part of that is connecting with people. So if you do want to connect, please reach out. You can just search my name or Arrive and Thrive on LinkedIn. Fantastic. So before I kick off officially this workshop, I would like to just check in with our audience, because depending on where you're at and what industry you're in, will depend on the types of use cases and types of social media, and specifically how you'll use LinkedIn. So what I would love to gauge, if you could just join the Slido survey. You can scan the QR code with your personal device, or you can go to open up a new window and go slido.com and put in the hashtag. Are you a current ACAP student? Because I know sometimes we do get alumni joining us on these presentations. So I would love to gauge what our population is in terms of, yeah, are we current students at ACAP? Are we, previous students? Let's gauge where everyone is at. It's got a few votes coming through now, which is fantastic. And one thing I want to stress while we're doing this is that everyone's on their own career journey. So if you're new to LinkedIn, if you're a seasoned user, if you are a current student, if you're not a current student, there's going to be different little things that you may prioritize when you're using it and developing your brand in the first place. So just really want to gauge where we're all at. So we've got about 40 votes now. Excuse me. And if you voted and you haven't got yourself a cup of tea, please go and get yourself a cup of tea, settle in. Fantastic. Awesome. Cool. I'll give probably another 20 seconds on this question, and then we'll launch into the next one. If you've just joined us too, you probably just need your smart device. Just scan the QR code, vote on if you're currently an ACAP student or not. So at the moment, we're around 50-50, which is cool. It's a bit of a blend. Awesome. Let's jump into the next question. What industries and professions are we pursuing? So I'd love to just gauge, are we in the counseling space? Are we in the social work? Are we in coaching? Let's see from this word cloud what industries we're in. So you can upvote certain things too. So to help you. Cool. We've got someone in recruitment. Fantastic. Coaching, counseling, psychology. Awesome. Cool. Fantastic. So got a lot of crew in that counseling space. By the looks of it, few crew in the social work and psychology. A couple of people in recruitment. Nice one. Non-for-profits, HR. Cool. Fantastic. Awesome. And cool. So one of the things we want to remember is that with our LinkedIn and any form of social media, this is really focusing and trying to target and bolster our personal brand. So this is the conscious effort to create and influence public perception of your ability, reputation, and knowledge. So essentially, we're wanting to back up, our experience, who we are as professionals through some sort of digital media presence. So I'd love to understand currently, do you have an online brand aligned with your career? So for example, I have a LinkedIn profile, and so I funnel all of my online branding around my career through my LinkedIn. And my website for our business is slightly different. So just trying to gauge on where people are at in terms of if you already have an online brand or if this is something that you're looking to start. Fantastic. So some interesting research came out recently, just while we're filling out this survey, is that more and more recruiting decisions are being made based on personal brands. So this is a really interesting piece because quite often the 70% of our weighted decision when it comes to recruiters making hiring decisions for businesses is that most of their 70% of their decision is influenced by someone's personal brand. So we need to remember that, when we refer to an online brand or a personal brand, it's not just, someone's online digital resume. We're talking about, their presence and the community that they're a part of. Cool. Awesome. Now, what online platform do I use to cultivate my brand? So some of you may, for the crew that already have an online brand at this point, please let me know what platforms do you use. So are you using LinkedIn? Have you got a personal website? Have you got perhaps an Instagram page, YouTube channel? Let's see what people are using who already are cultivating their brand. Cool. LinkedIn, website, big ones. Fantastic. All right. Cool. Now, the big thing we want to think about is that depending on what space you want to play in, certain online brands and certain platforms are going to suit what you want to do. So, for example, if you're wanting to make, those Instagram reels and you wanted to create stories and kind of have that type of brand, Instagram is going to be a great place for you to hang out on. We're seeing a lot of people jump into the TikTok space too to reach younger audiences as well. And then personal websites and LinkedIn is really important as well, generally for your SEO as well. Cool. So depending on your platform, this is going to impact, I suppose, your use cases. So one thing that we need to remember with our personal brand is that it's our face-to-face, and we also have this blend of that digital presence too. So we really want to make sure this is backed up with our messaging, with our communication, with the way in which we engage with our audience. Because every time we are developing a personal brand, you are engaging some sort of audience. So if that's your community that you're hoping to gain employment and opportunities from, if it's fellow colleagues, if it's fellow people in the same industry, we're all just trying to build a community, and community is at heart of our personal brand because it's these people that can vouch for our experience on different digital platforms. Now, a couple of statistics, which I think is really important, especially around why it's important to develop this personal brand this day and age. So 92% of people trust recommendations from individuals, even if they don't know them, over brands. So one of the things that I really want to focus on with LinkedIn is that this trust piece. So I recently had, I run a podcast when I'm not doing workshops and webinars. And I recently had a LinkedIn, I suppose, representative come on. And she was saying that we really want LinkedIn to kind of come back to its original roots, which is essentially passing those business cards, those personal details, and making proper connections with people. And so this is why we need to go, okay, well, when it comes to building your brand and building your community, we really want to make sure that we're focusing on, building that trust with individuals. Consistency is key as well. And so we know that it takes about 5 to 7 impressions for someone to remember someone's brand or to remember someone's experience. So each time we post as Arrive and Thrive, or as I'm posting myself, in the back of my mind, I'm going, when I'm posting, I'm hoping to hit my regular community or my regular audience, but there's also going to be more people that are probably going to have one touch point with me. And then maybe further down the line, they'll have another touch point. And each time they engage with my content, we're building that trust factor. 85% of recruiters and HR professionals say that employees' online reputation influences their hiring decisions. Out of all business decision makers, 84% start their buying process with a referral, and Google is the very first place people look at after getting a referral. What I want you to do now is I want you to open up a Google tab, and I want you to Google your name. See what comes up. So ideally, what we want is your personal website or your LinkedIn profile to come up. And this is why LinkedIn is particularly fantastic, is because your SEO ranking is high in that particular platform in many cases when you're just starting out. And your LinkedIn profile is going to pop up more so than perhaps other personal social media. So it's always good to do a bit of an audit, to Google your name, Google your business name, see what comes up, see where you're ranking, and trying to be proactive around increasing that ranking if you're trying to build your brand, build clients, etc. So again, depends on the use case, but what we really want to see is that when someone Googles your name, it's got a positive brand recognition in a Google search. And then lastly, 65% see online search as the most trusted source of information about people and companies. So again, we're still relying on these Google search patterns to source information that supports us with our decision-making in our career. Now, when it comes to the fundamentals, and we're going to focus largely on LinkedIn tonight, we need to remember that when it comes to that personal brand, we're backing up every little touch point when we're connecting with someone. So that is your own social media. That could be your voicemail. That could be your professional email address. If you've got a personal website, ensuring that you have email associated with your personal website. These are all basic little things that, again, builds that trust and reputation with people that you're trying to connect with. Checking Google as well, as I said, and ensuring that, whatever online content you decide to go with, it's content that supports you and your mission. So if that is securing a role as a case manager in social work, being mindful that your branding is associated with those types of things. So your LinkedIn is funneling that type of opportunity. If you are wanting to build your own counseling practice and you're looking for clients, that's going to take a slightly different approach compared to someone who's wanting to gain employment as a social worker. So being mindful of what types of career objectives you want to achieve determines the type of content you put out there. So for example, with myself, at the start of my career journey, when we started Arrive and Thrive, I really wanted to focus in on one-on-one career coaching and career counseling work. And then as my career has evolved, I'm wanting to do more webinars and workshops. And so therefore my content is targeted around the types of audiences that I work with in a workshop space. Okay. So depending on where it is that you want to pursue in your future focus, that will determine how much you play in certain fundamental areas and how much energy you put into certain things and having a reputation in a certain domain. Cool. So the reason why LinkedIn is really important is because it really sets the bar around networking. And we know that networking is a really vital piece when it comes to your career development. You ask any individual and they're probably guaranteed to say yes, that they've secured employment through someone that they've known at some point in their life. And we know that with your networking, your community and the first tier connections that you have are really vital for being able to demonstrate a positive personal brand and positive influence amongst a group. Now, pillars of your online brand. These are some of the things that we need to think about. So when it comes to starting out on developing your online brand, we need to think, okay, what platform is the preferred platform for me? Our idea is to create a community, so to create connections. All right. So think back into say early 2000, early like mid 90s, people would collect business cards and you put them in a business card Rolodex. This is the type of thing we want to think about when it comes to developing a community. Okay. Who are the people that we're connecting with and how can we potentially support each other? Websites, so trusted accreditation, accurate bios, appropriate copy, user experience. So if you are going to go down that road of creating a website, make sure you're doing the basics well. As we said before with Google, Google has an important piece as well. So again, occasionally jump into your SEO, Google your name, Google your business, see what stacks up. There's so much content online that helps you with that type of stuff if you are looking for that. And then when you are starting to post on these channels or post on your personal website, depending on what your objectives are, perhaps content is the way you want to go. So let's say one of the things you may want to prioritize is getting clients as a small business operator. So what you want to be able to do is find free resources or develop free content that people can come and engage with. So they maybe want to perhaps engage with some sort of call to action. That might be sign up to your newsletter. That might be sign up to your free resource, or that might just be something as simple as let's connect on LinkedIn. Okay. So depending on what your journey is and what your objectives are, will change your call to action and change the type of content that you're working with. Awesome. So let's get into the bones of LinkedIn. So we've talked a little bit around, setting this up and, why is it important for you depending on where your career is at. People are going to use LinkedIn differently, and you'll see, I suppose, when we jump into a profile, the different use cases for LinkedIn. Some people are going to be very happy just to create a profile, park their profile. And what we mean by that is just have their profile there online. It's essentially a 24/7 resume. And so they're not necessarily going to be actively posting, creating content, engaging, but they're going to be following different people and trying to use their LinkedIn profile as that business card Rolodex. So that's one use case. Someone else may want to be going hard on the posting, going hard on the connecting process, looking for jobs, starting conversations on LinkedIn. Again, depending on where you're at and your love of social media and the purpose of why you're wanting to use it. Now, the numbers are pretty wild. I added this slide in at the start of the year of 930 million members. As we heard at the start from Damien, it's gone over 1 billion. So again, the use cases and the members are continuing to grow and grow. It's had phenomenal growth, especially during those COVID years. A lot of people were looking at ways to connect with different individuals, and LinkedIn was one of those. If you're wanting to take your career international as well, it's a perfect use case because you can engage with different people from different countries quite easily, and thinking more from learning and gleaning information from certain industries. So for example, I'm in the careers education space. I'm connected with a bunch of people from the UK, a bunch of people from the United States, because in many ways, their education system is very different, and there's really pros and cons that I can learn from to apply here in Australia. So again, we want to think about how, in which case do we want to use LinkedIn? And one of the ways I personally use it is by gaining information from industry experts to apply it back to my own, I suppose, community. Cool. So some of the numbers that are really important to wrap our head around when it comes to LinkedIn is that it hosts 10 million active job postings at any one time. So the amount of opportunity on there is huge. If you're going, hey, Ty, this is all cool, but what is LinkedIn? I want you to think LinkedIn is like a professional version of Facebook. Okay. And I'll show you what those profiles look like in a second. So think job marketplace, think Facebook Marketplace. You know how people sell different stuff on Facebook Marketplace? Recruiters and talent managers are going to be selling opportunities on LinkedIn. So there's the marketplace for the job. Friends on Facebook are like connections on LinkedIn, right? Profiles are very similar. You also have a feed. You can engage with that feed through either video, through comments, through liking different pages. So the use cases are very similar. The purposes are very different, quite professional, where Facebook is obviously channeling that personal side. 106 million people access the site monthly. So again, you're going to have people who have profiles but don't necessarily engage. And that's all a part of the process of social media. An average user spends 17 minutes per month on LinkedIn. So not many people do clock up huge amounts of time, but the ones who do stick out in the crowd. 61 million companies are listed. So again, being able to use this as a research tool for the types of companies that you want to work for is a fantastic use case. And I'll show you how to do that. And then more than 90% of recruiters use LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is this main funnel where a lot of people are, especially recruiters and talent sources, are using it as a way to understand who is in the market, what types of opportunities they may want to persuade people with. And lastly, some of the numbers are pretty wild too. So 31% of millennials, 20% of Gen Z use LinkedIn. We're seeing those two generations really focus on LinkedIn as a way to engage in their career digitally. And so that's an important use case to think about too. Awesome. So let's jump in and have a look at a profile example to give you some context. Cool. So this particular individual is a psychologist, Adriana Loveday. And one of the reasons I like sharing her profile is because I think it's an important thing to aspire to for some of us, because her profile demonstrates some really good and important factors to think about when it comes to what a basic functional profile can look like. So here with Adriana, she's got a display professional headshot picture, and these can be quite simple to create, team. Sometimes we think, oh, we need to get a professional photographer and all this type of thing. Using your smart device in portrait mode is all you need to do. Quite often, universities will also offer opportunities for you to take professional headshots and things like that. So there's opportunities galore to get those professional headshots done. So again, trying to have a professional photo as best as you can. That can be something as simple as someone taking it on an iPhone. Please don't use like a photo from your wedding day and you've cropped it out and you can see someone's hand in the side of the picture. We don't want to do anything like that. All right. We just want to make sure it's a professional picture. Then you've got this backdrop piece too. So you can either create your own on Canva, you can Google LinkedIn stock backdrop images and have the right image. Again, it just adds a little bit more character to your profile. And again, that little bit of character adds more to your brand. So the most important factors to think about with your profile is your display picture, your headshot, your backdrop image, and then your headline. So this is this part here. So with Adriana, you can see that she's a psychologist, director, workplace mental health and organizational transformation. So already just from looking at her headline, you can understand what she does, the types of areas that she plays in. All right. And this is an important step because these keywords relate to job opportunities as well. So if you want job opportunities as a social worker, you need to have social worker in your headline. If you want job opportunities around case management, you need to have case management in your headline. You can have other elements like Adriana. So she's actually got 3 kind of core points here in her headline. You can have as many as you like, but again, you want to make sure that it's easy for people to grasp and understand, and you be associated with that particular piece. Okay. Awesome. Now, for Adriana, she's got a direct website URL link in her profile. So someone might jump on her profile and want to connect with her business consulting company, and they can do that straight away with their URL. You can change that in the editor function, which is pretty easy to do. And you can also have other calls to action. So for example, with me, it's something as simple as book a workshop, and it takes you to a booking page. With Adriana, it's taking her to a website. You can message her directly, and that's just because I'm a first-tier connection with her as well. But I'll go into that a little bit later. From there, we can see her about section. All right. So this is where you start to give an overview around who you are as a professional. Now, when you're setting up a profile, you can choose which areas are involved in your profile, which is public, which is private, etc. Like all social media, you can go through the settings, determine which ones are appropriate for you. What I will say is that when I speak to my recruiting friends and when I've worked in the career coaching space, an about section is fantastic because it gives people an understanding of who you are, the flavor at which you do your work. It gives people a backdrop around the stuff that you do. Think of it very much like a pitch. And so if you're trying to pitch yourself and someone says, hey, tell me about yourself, your about section can cover that in a nice, succinct way. Now, as we go further down, she has a couple of different blogs that she's written, which is cool, some posts, some articles. And so again, you can create this feature in your profile if that's the type of position that you want to create. So if you want to be a content creator, you want to be writing on certain things, which I recommend you doing. If you do want to build that community and that personal brand, because you can see Adriana, she's got just over 8,781 followers. So again, that would have come through her work of posting, through her work of engaging with other people. And so she's got a bit of a theme here with her posts and her articles. Now we scroll further down, and this is where we get to her experience. So this is just like a 24/7 resume where someone can go, cool, based on someone's experience, what are the types of fields that they're going into? So here you can see each part of her experience is shared by a small snapshot around what she did in that particular experience. Okay. You can see the dates that she's been involved there. You can see some of the contract work that she's doing at the moment. So she's being an executive lead psychologist, safety and transformation psychologist for Census. So again, this is a contract role. Again, you can see that here. So depending on your experience and what you might be involved in, you might have a few bits of contract work coming on. You might have full-time employment. You can change that according to your experience. You scroll further down too, and you can see her experience. Now, team, you don't have to put every single piece of experience that you've had on. Much like with a resume is a targeted assessment document or application document. Your LinkedIn is your portfolio of experience, but there might be content on there that you don't feel like you want to have on there. So again, you don't have to put that on there. It's totally up to you. What I will say though, is that having, I suppose, major gaps in your experience on LinkedIn probably works against you ever so slightly. So I would encourage you to put down most of your experience and find ways to demonstrate the transferability, right? In this modern age, everyone understands that people will chop and change careers. Research has shown that on average, my generation, a millennial, is going to have up to 7 different career changes. I'm 34 and I'm already on my 4th. So again, totally depends on where you're at and what you want to do. But again, being proud of where you've worked, the types of skills you've involved, the types of experiences, capturing that is quite important. As we scroll down, you can see education. We can see her skills too, the areas that she wants to be known for. So relationship development, strategy. She's also got a recommendations page as well. So this is where people have recommended her for certain skill sets, certain experiences, and her interests. So again, you can change and determine what types of things you want to put on there based on your profile. So I'll show you what that looks like from a personal perspective. So I'll show you mine just to give you that insight. So here, as I said before, you can put in certain links. So I've got book a workshop, and then I've got my headline as a facilitator, careers educator, podcast host, e-learning careers counselor, helping individuals develop a meaningful career. So I've got more keywords than Adriana had. But again, it depends on what you're going for. So for me, I want people to learn more about my business and to engage with our workshops. That's my primary call to action. And so when I'm looking back, I try to make my about section quite joyful, quite youthful, because that's the type of audience that I'm trying to attract. I work a lot with high school students and tertiary providers. So this is the type of thing that I'm focusing on. I'm also trying to focus my top skills on career education and workshop facilitation. Now, depending on what your call to action is as well, for me, I want people to download our program brochure. I want people to engage with our podcast. So I have these front and center on my profile. Now, you can add profile sections depending on what's important to you. So you can add education, you can look at recommendations, so you can add licenses and certificates, projects, courses, all right? Depending if, say, for example, you work in a research side of psychology, you might add publications, any volunteer experience. So you might do some stuff with Lifeline. So again, adding that in. So you can add in whatever causes and things that are important to you, or you can delete things as well. So you don't have to have certain sections. It's all about what you want to portray to individuals. And so for me, I've got my experience here. I haven't listed all my experience. There's one or two things that I didn't include, just based purely from a brand positioning perspective, where I wanted to be known more for my current brand, not necessarily projects I was involved in. So again, totally up to you around how you want to do that. But as I said here, I've got some licenses and certificates of tools that I use in my career coaching and counseling process previously, and I wanted to capture those in my profile. Cool. Awesome. Now, that's one example. Another example, which I thought would be cool to share, as a social worker. So social workers are an interesting one when it comes to social media, because quite often we need to be careful around people's privacy with the people that we're working with and dealing with. And so we want to remember that depending on what our preference is around the purpose of our LinkedIn, this will determine how much we use LinkedIn and other socials. So here with Ellie, she hasn't necessarily got a call to action like Adriana had. So Adriana had the piece around click on her website. There's no call to action for Ellie, which is totally fine. It's clear what her role is, social worker at the Royal Children's Hospital. You can start to go down. She doesn't have an about section either, which is totally cool, but her experience is quite clear. So you can see here her experience, roles and responsibilities in each of her areas. So if I'm a recruiter looking at her profile, I can clearly see the types of content and experience that she has. And that's going to help me understand, what positions that she might want to apply for, be useful for. Again, her education, volunteering, skills, interests, and that's all an important step for me to be able to gauge someone's personal brand as a recruiter and ensure that the types of people that we're attracting to roles and the types of people that we're wanting to engage with are involved in a positive way based on their profile and experience. Cool. So that's to give you a taste of what a profile may look like. Now, what happens is when you create a profile and you log in, this is what your feed will look like. So much like any social media, there's different people posting different things. And so, for example, Ryan Walker, he is a guy that I recently connected with maybe about 6 months ago, and he's moving on from his current position. So I might give it a thumbs up. I might celebrate the fact that he's been doing some cool work and he's moving on. I might also want to comment, repost. So again, engaging with social media like most of us do in our personal way. This is what we want to be able to do in our LinkedIn time as well. I also got some good advice the other day, which was if you're going to engage with people's content to like make lasting impressions, what you can do is you can either like it, celebrate it, love it, but then also add a little comment as well. So it might be like something for me is like, good luck, mate, at the next in the next chapter. Awesome. So then I comment, and then again, start to move forward further down in my other feed. So again, this is someone that I'm connected with in the UK. He's doing some cool stuff in the careers education space in the UK. So again, we're using our feed to understand the types of people that are involved in our circles and to keep our finger on the pulse around what they do and how we can potentially support them in their process as well. So I generally like to say a rule of thumb is that if you're going to engage on LinkedIn, first of all, number one, get your profile sorted. Okay. There's no use connecting with people until you're happy with your profile, because then it will just, you'll feel a little bit embarrassed perhaps going to connect, or you may not be as excited to connect with people because you're unconfident in your profile. So again, focus on your profile first, then start connecting. Now, again, some of the things you want to do to populate your feed is by searching certain companies. So again, I care a lot about the education space and what are available to young people. So for example, the other day I searched Toolbox Education. So this is an initiative which is pretty cool. It's facilitators who are studying psychology going into high schools and teaching literally toolbox education for young people around mental health. So I'll click on that page, click on that company, I follow them. So I get those updates in my own feed. And then this is where you can start to go, all right, if there's a particular company I would like to work for, how can I use LinkedIn to be able to support that process? And so one of the ways in which you can do that is by clicking on people. And then you can start to see that there's 16 people associated with Toolbox Education that I could potentially connect with. And so you scroll further down and you start to see some of these individuals. Now, this is where networking and using LinkedIn is vital, because you can strategically network and go, cool, who are the people from certain companies that I want to connect with and see their updates, to therefore populate my own news feed to keep my finger on the pulse within my industry. Okay. And so majority of companies out there will have a LinkedIn page. So if there's a company or industry you want to work in, following those types of companies is really, really important. So for example, David is one of the co-founders of Toolbox Education. I reached out to him and said, hey, mate, love what you're doing. Would love to connect and see your updates. And learning how to connect with people is one of those really important factors within your personal brand. Now, Toolbox Education is one example. Let's say you want to work at Headspace. So again, you click on Headspace. You can follow Headspace. You can then look at people, and companies will have job advertisements as well. So let's say you're in, let's say you're in New South Wales. So again, that strips it down to 496 members. And let's say where they studied, or let's have a look at something else. What they do. So healthcare services, customer support, education, operations. So I work in education. So I might go, okay, cool. Who are the crew from Headspace that work in education? And then it starts to generate people who potentially I might want to connect with who work at Headspace. So again, you're targeting those specific networking efforts to think about who are the types of people I want to engage with in my LinkedIn process. All right. This is the world we live in with this digital technology. It's pretty crazy when you think about it, but it's an exciting chapter, because again, we're stripping back that process of having to pick up the phone, ask for certain people. Again, we're in this digital marketplace of talent, which is pretty cool. Now, on the process of connecting with individuals, so something we want to think about is that connections are essential but it's how we connect, which is the most important part. So in a world where most social media is very fast and very can feel transactional, one of the big things that I really want to recommend with LinkedIn is going and trying to make your LinkedIn efforts more trustworthy, in that it's like face-to-face communication and really tapping into your genuine curiosity, your genuine relationship management. And so what I mean by that is that when we think about connecting with people, these are the three rules I'd love people to follow. And a lot of people don't do this, which is frustrating. But again, this is the social media and the wild west sometimes that we live in. But I believe that if we all follow these types of things, we'll be a lot more happy, a lot more connected individuals within our work life. So first and foremost, team, be human and authentic. I don't need to tell quite often ACAP students to focus in on these two areas, being human and authentic, because these are principles that we tap into a lot in the work that you do. But embrace your personality, focus on your lived experience. Okay. If you are aiming for a certain occupation, a certain point in your career, and you haven't quite hit that yet, that is okay. You don't have to fake it until you make it. It's just starting to chip away at that process and being open and authentic around where you're at. Personalize the invite too. So you'll notice that when you can connect with people, you might type in someone's name. And when you go to connect with them, if you haven't already spoken to that person, please personalize the invite. So find the rapport between you and that person. So that could be something as simple as, hey, love what you're doing in this space. Would love to connect and see your updates. Or if you may be connected with someone at an industry event, hey, it was great to connect at the industry event. Here are my details. Look forward to seeing your updates. All right. So again, personalizing the invite, showing that you've taken the time is really, really important. Diversify your network as well. So sometimes, and I did this and I was guilty of this, and something I need to be mindful of is that quite often we'll just focus on a small portion of an industry. So if we're social workers, we're just going to connect with all the other social workers. If I'm a careers counselor, I'm just going to connect with all the other career counselors. You want to diversify your network because this is how we learn and grow. So for me, I focus on education, but I focus on connecting with principals, thought leaders in education, well-being specialists, career specialists, children's psychologists. So again, trying to gain a holistic view of an industry as opposed to a singular view of an industry is really important. Pretend you're face-to-face as well. So like when we communicate face-to-face, there's emotional intelligence, you listen, you ask thought-provoking questions, you're curious. The same principles apply when you're online. And also when we're pivoting or making a career transition, because I know a lot of ACAP students are in that zone sometimes. They're going, okay, I used to be X. Now I'm focusing in going into Y. It's okay to have a future focus and work towards that ideal self. So as I said before, I used to be a careers counselor and I want to step away from more one-on-one work and focus more on group work. So I changed the elements in my headline. I changed the elements of featured content that was in my profile more towards workshops. I started writing content more around workshops and doing posts about workshops. So again, people know me for workshops now, but that took some time, and that's just a part of our career. We need to put in some time and we need to make that transition focus. For example, one of my dear mates is a social worker and we were doing a little bit of work the other day and he's applying for a leadership and management role. And there was a realization that he had that a lot of his content was specifically around being a great social worker. And so now he's at this point in his life and his career where he needs to pivot. So his branding is known as being a leadership and management go-to person within the social work space. So again, depending on what it is that you want to pursue, you're going to need to change up certain things depending on what you want to pursue at that particular point in your career. Cool? Awesome. Now, one thing we need to remember is that connection using the app, so using your smartphone device, is going to be different to using the desktop. Now, I'm a bit of a sucker for social media and I can get caught up in the buzz. And so one thing that I try and do is limit my use on my phone. All right. So I'll try and factor in some time for LinkedIn purely on desktop because I know that I can get a little bit sucked into the vortex of social media, and I actually try and not, I don't use social media on my phone. I try not to. And so it's important to remember these types of boundaries when it comes to your own social media use. We need to remember that when we go to connect with someone on their phone, there's a few different steps. So when you go and click on someone's profile, if you just hit connect, that is automatically going to send off an invite. What we need to be able to do is click more and go personalize invites, all right, as opposed to just clicking connect. And so when you go to personalize the invite, that's when you can create a message. Now, there's going to be certain use functions that you can have and use depending on the type of LinkedIn profile that you have. There are premium profiles, there are free profiles, all that type of stuff. Like any social media, there's different tiers, but you can try premium for 30 days free of charge. If you do like it, most people just use the free option. I myself use premium just because it's aligned with my work and it's an important factor, but a lot of crew just use the free profile and have no issues with that. So keep that in mind. Some invitation templates too. So some examples of how you might communicate and connect with people. So we're going to circulate these slides at the end of the session. So don't feel like you have to scribble them all down. But again, giving people context around why you're connecting is vital. So many people just will fire off connections and then someone random will go, hang on a second, who is this person? I have no context around why they want to connect. And a lot of people will not connect with that person because based on that. So giving someone context around why you want to connect with them is really, really important. So for me, these are from some of the three that I use most regularly. So it could be something like I found someone's post really interesting, love to connect and see more updates. Or as I said, I saw someone do a presentation, do an industry night, connect, found their presentation really interesting. Sometimes it's as simple as going, hey, I see that you work in the education space, would love to connect and see your updates. Okay. Or I too work in the education space, or I too work in the social work space. Trying to find the common ground to demonstrate that you've done your due diligence is really, really important. Cool. Posting and engaging. Awesome. So let's just have a little pivot for a second. So one thing that I've said around connecting with individuals is important. Now, depending on where you study or where you've studied, but let's use ACAP as an example here. Every university has an alumni function on their LinkedIn. So what's really fantastic about this is that if you're wondering, okay, who can I connect with? Who are some people that I can learn from? What you can do is you can click on the university page that you went to. So if we're going to ACAP, we click alumni, and here we can see everyone who's put the ACAP education within their profile. We can start to see where they may work, what they do. So if you want to connect with someone just once you've finished your studies, who there's some common ground here that you've been at ACAP and that you want to use that as a way to connect with other people, because we want to look for that rapport, remember? So we go, cool. I'm interested in people that work in community and healthcare services or social services. And then we go, great, where are some areas that they work? New South Wales Health, Raise Foundation, Lifeline Australia. So again, these might be organizations that you may want to work at. And then from there, you can filter accordingly and start to engage with people within that capacity. Okay. And that's an important step, because if you're looking for people to engage with industry, one of the best ways to do this is to engage with people in your existing community, which is ACAP. And so alumni, professors, colleagues within the ACAP community, these are great people for you to be able to connect with because you're already a part of this community. And so maximizing this opportunity of not just getting a qualification, but also connecting with people who are doing some amazing things can be really, really important and a great step in your success in terms of determining and developing your network. Cool. Now, we've spoken a lot about the alumni piece, connecting with different people. Some of the other use cases, we've got jobs here as well. Now, one of the things you need to think about with your job function on LinkedIn is customizing your profile, and you're going to get job preferences based on what you've placed in your profile. So what used to happen is that you would use your LinkedIn as a way to look for and filter out certain jobs. But now what happens is that LinkedIn goes based on the content within your profile. These are the jobs that we think you'd be suited for, right? And this is something that you need to remember, because if there's an area that you want to focus in on, we need to start to adjust our preferences around that. Cool. So again, here there's different preferences that you can open up. And so for me, because I run my own business, I'm not open to work opportunities at the moment, but you can change this and you can get job alerts, etc. You can search areas too. So for example, I might go, let's go Melbourne, Victoria. And then this is where you'll have the different opportunities. So again, Melbourne, Victoria, and I might go social work. Cool. And so then you'll see the different opportunities that relate to your profile based on the data that you've put in there. Okay, so it can be date posted, experience, company, remote. So some people really want hybrid work. And again, looking at these types of metrics. Something to think about too is that if you click on an opportunity, so let's go, if I go counseling, engaging family, what you can do is you can see some of the people that are in the hiring process. Now here I can see that me and Natalie have 8 mutual connections. So I might then use that opportunity to go, cool, who do I know that might know Natalie? Can I potentially connect with Natalie beforehand to engage and understand more about the opportunity? Again, depends on why you're wanting to use LinkedIn. If you're using it for a job search function, by all means, go down that road. But again, another use case for you to be able to do it, right? So if it's jobs that we're after, turning on these types of metrics, saving these types of jobs, like any social media, the more data it's fueled with, the more opportunities it's going to give you accurate options for you to be able to pursue. So something to think about. Then we also have the messaging function. So again, this is a prime example. So as I said before, sending out an invitation. So Donna is the director of wellbeing for a school that I work with with Loretto. And I recently reached out to her and said, hey, Donna, we do a workshop with the Year 10s on career design in their Moresby profile. Would be great to connect and see your updates. So again, fired that off. She accepted. Again, you're wanting to engage, be authentic with those invitations, as I said before. Cool. Awesome. Team, I might just check in. Is there any questions around any of the content that we've covered thus far? Because I know I've been kind of, for a lack of a better term, firing off.
No, it's good, Tyson. The comments have,
all good?
have been great so far. Yeah, and the questions that have been and asked have been answered by you. So all good.
Fantastic. Cool, team. So that's really some important factors around your profile, messaging, jobs board. Your network as well is going to be people that try and connect with you as well. So we've got other people that you may know through different areas. So I do some consulting work for BetterUp occasionally. So these are people that always I get recommended to connect with. People I may know in the Melbourne greater area. So again, people in those fields that I do my work in. So quite often it is education, etc. Now this is a good example. So I could see Fiona here, Pathways Advisor at Cedar College. So I might click on her profile and we're a second tier connection. All right. So this means that we have 103 other mutual connections. So that means that we are connected with 103 of the same people. And so I might go, cool, I may want to connect with Fiona based on some of her experience. So she's at Cedar. We used to do a little bit of work with Cedar as well. So I might want to go, okay, cool, let's try and spark that relationship up again. What I can do, I don't have to connect with Fiona straight away. I can follow her as well. So following and connecting is slightly different. Connecting is where they become a connection and you can message them, you can have that type of relationship. Where following just means that I will get Fiona's updates in my feed. So for example, I follow Richard Branson, but I'm not connected with Richard Branson personally. Yeah. I might follow Anthony Albanese, but I'm not connected with him personally. All right. And this can be CEOs of companies. This can just be random people that you want their content, but you may not necessarily feel confident in connecting with them outright off the bat. Okay. But because Fiona and I have about 103 mutual connections, I'm going to go connect. And I'm going to add a note and say, hey, Fiona, we used to do some workshops, Cedar. Would love to see your updates in the careers space and connect here on LinkedIn. Cheers. Cool. So I might go, it's coming in a bit hot, I reckon. Hey, Fiona, would love to connect as I used to do some workshops with Cedar. Looking forward to seeing your updates in the career space. Cool. So again, you want to make sure that these invitations are genuine. So, which this really is for me because I used to do some stuff with Cedar. And I think it'd be cool to reconnect with Fiona and check out what they're doing. So I go, hey, Fiona, would love to connect as I used to do some workshops with Cedar. Looking forward to seeing your updates in the career space. Send. Cool. So when that invitation comes through to her, there's going to be a note there demonstrating why I wanted to connect with her. Okay. And so it can be really important to do your due diligence and look for people who that you may not necessarily be aware that you're connected with or have the opportunity to connect with. And so that's a first tier connection and a second tier connection. So posting and engaging. So this is an important part if you do want to create content and create a bit of a flavor around the types of content that's going out there and be known for something. So quite often people will say, well, what do I post about? How should I engage with people? These are my 3 recommendations. So document. So don't necessarily think about, okay, what content do I need to write? Think about the experiences that you have weekly that people may find interesting that they could benefit from in terms of understanding what you're doing for work, understanding any learnings that you've had, particularly in your role, any content or information or research or articles that you found interesting can be a great way to share content, and really embrace your own voice and share your opinions, because this world that we live in when it comes to a personal brand is that you need to have some sort of presence that can support I suppose the content that you're putting out there. So again, depends on what use case you want to use this for. For me, I try and post daily or every second day, and little updates around what we're doing in the business, workshops we've done, content that we've shared, testimonials that we've gained, student numbers that we've hit. So again, depends. My prime focus is building a business, building our reputation. That's why I do that. Someone else might go, well, all I need is my profile and I'm just going to comment. I'm going to share other people's updates. I'm going to use it to connect. I'm not going to use it to generate content. And that's totally fine, right? Depends on what use case you want to use LinkedIn for. One hand, there's the content generation. The other hand is connecting and focusing on those relationships. People can definitely do both, and that's what I try and do. But some people might just prefer one or the other. There's no right or wrong. It's in terms of what use case you have. Okay. So to give you an example of content. So I'll use my own profile just to share that example as well, because I think it might be relevant for some people. So as you can see here, you can see some posts that I've done. So let's go show all posts. And this is just to give people an understanding that there might be different things that you can do depending on your work. So for me personally, today I was at Mentone Grammar. We ran a pitch workshop. So I took a little selfie. And this is kind of my little thing that I've tried to start trying to do, is that because I work with young people, I can't take their photo in many cases in a school environment for multitude of reasons. And so I always try and take a selfie at the school to be like, hey, I'm at the school, we're doing a workshop, this is what we're doing. All right. So this is my approach to my content. And so I share, what we did, the importance of developing a pitch and why that's important. I do a shout out for the person who organized my workshop to be there. And then on Monday, I did a post about our podcast episode. So I did a recent podcast with a gentleman by the name of Max around athlete transitions, coming out of a professional career and transitioning into the next thing. So I posted about the podcast. Then I met someone in the community who was a podcast fan at this networking event. So I tried to capture that. I connected with her and did a post around the importance of community connection and tagged some crew in there, that people that I'd met and connected with. And so again, it totally depends on what you want to demonstrate. So here's another example, which I thought was cool as well. This is Morgan. This person's actually a previous ACAP student. And you can see here, she was involved. So she's involved in the Constellation Project, lived experience practice framework into the world. And so she's shared this piece here. She's got some fantastic followers and some fantastic engagement. So she's obviously got a lot of people engaging with this type of content. And so this can be something like if you've just launched a project or just launched an initiative, you can share it on LinkedIn. So that's one example there. Here, she's also shared some stuff around the Kelly Chase Foundation, truly modeling what it means to be actively shifting power and systems. So again, she's sharing the stuff that she's learnt and sharing links around that. And so she's obviously developed a following in that space. Her profile is pretty cool as well. It's got a great display, a backdrop image, thoughtful headshot, and her headline is translating lived experience into systems level impact. So again, depending on what your preference is and what you're trying to achieve will determine the types of content that you put out there. Okay. Awesome. Cool. So one thing I want you to think about, team, we've covered a lot in tonight's session. One of the things I want you to think about is what is one action that you're going to focus on moving forward from this session? So determining whether you want to use LinkedIn as a content generating piece, so generating content for your community. Do you want to use it as a way to connect with people in your industry? Do you want to make adjustments to your own profile? Do you want to edit things? Do you want to apply for work during that process? Essentially, what we need to do is go, okay, well, what is it that I really want to prioritize? Now, for me, as I said, I'm really wanting to build an audience around our business and showcase what I do within our business to book more programs. That's my priority. Other people, it's going to be different. So what I'd love you to be able to do is try and think of one action that you'll focus on moving forward from this session. And we'd love to share that in the comments. So if that's, I'm going to set up a profile, I'm going to edit my profile, I'm going to add some content to my profile, I'm going to try and do a post next week. I'm going to try and connect with someone from the ACAP community, whatever it may be. I would love to see what crew are saying. And got some stuff coming through here, which is great. Take a better picture and update my profile. Absolutely. Updating my profile and connect with more industry professionals. Definitely edit, clean up my profile. Yep. Fantastic. And these are the types of things we want to think about, team. Just like your resume, it's important to jump in and make updates. So for example, just when I was looking at sharing my profile just before, I noticed something that I need to edit myself. The amount of young people that we've worked with has changed since I wrote my about section. So again, I need to update that. It's important to keep your finger on the pulse, especially in this busy this busy life that we find ourselves in for a lot of us. Carving out time in your calendar to go, okay, let's jump in, have a play around with LinkedIn, let's edit, let's add some content and go from there, because it's really important to be able to demonstrate, okay, keeping our finger on the pulse depending on the industry is vital for us to make change and develop those connections. Now, team, as I said, if you do want to connect with myself, all you have to do is jump on LinkedIn, search my name. You can send me an email. You can jump on our website, do what you want to do. We are mainly working with high schools and tertiary institutes in the workshop space. So trying to make this information and career development information easily digestible for young people in particularly, and also tertiary individuals. We do some stuff in the parent space too, in terms of having career conversations. So again, if you find any of this stuff interesting, please feel free to connect with myself and send me an email. Always happy to have conversations. If you are even interested in the careers coaching space or counseling space, happy to give my 2 cents in that field as well. But it's been a pleasure hanging out. I'm going to hang out here. If you've got any leading questions that you want to ask around LinkedIn or the use cases. But again, thanks so much for joining me tonight, and I wish you all the best for the rest of the night and the year ahead.
Thanks so much, Tyson. That was great. I even got a fair bit out of that, so I'll be updating my profile as well. So thank you. A lot of questions have been asked, but you've actually ended up answering them, which has been great. Roxanne has asked, so I think you may have touched on this at the start. What about if you were still studying? Is it a bit weird to set up a profile and jump into this?
Yeah, good question. So if you're still studying, one thing I would recommend doing is just adding in content each semester. So going, okay, what stuff have I learned? What subjects have I done? Have I done any certificates? Have I gained any knowledge that predicts the areas that I would like to pursue, and focusing that into your profile? If you're a student, it's totally up to you if you want to start posting content. I've seen some students really build an audience effectively through posting content about their industry, and people kind of listen because they're fresh faces, they're fresh perspectives within the industry. If it was me personally, I would focus on 2 parts, really making sure your profile is professional, following industry and companies that you would like to work for. And that would kind of be my main objective. So making sure my profile is polished, and then also connecting and growing my network through either following companies or following industry professionals or people that have come and engaged with the ACAP community, and just connect with them to see their updates. That would be my main 2 focus points.
Awesome. Thank you. There was one question which I thought perhaps wasn't really about tonight's topic, but it maybe is. It was apologies if I'm saying this wrong. Shankar asked if there were other AI tools that can help create the content for LinkedIn. I'm not sure if that's more a topic on AI or whether we could quickly tie it into, to LinkedIn content.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite things, team, is if I can't think of something to post on LinkedIn, I'll literally jump into ChatGPT and go topics to post on LinkedIn as an educator. And I'll hit enter, and then I'll see the types of suggestions. And then I'll make tweaks. I'll go something like, can you focus this more on the Australian education system, or can you focus this more on career education? So I use ChatGPT as like a writing starter. So if I've got writer's block, I'll chuck something in. For example, in our newsletter the other day, I'm drafting up a newsletter, and I was like, how can I engage my reader as best as I can? And I was like, I'm going to create a funny poem. So I typed in a funny poem in ChatGPT about careers education, and within 30 seconds, it generated a funny poem for me to put in my newsletter. So again, depending on why you want to use it, I would start with ChatGPT. There's a whole range of different tools and plugins out there that can support you with content creation. Again, before you go down the rabbit hole, I would just ask yourself, for what purpose do you want to create the content? Because that'll drive the content for you. So if that's going, I want to create a community to get more listeners on my podcast, fantastic. That's what's going to drive you. That's what's going to drive your content. If you're wanting to start to go, okay, I want to gain employment within this space, what type of content do you need to create to be able to get into that space? So that might not necessarily be spending time creating content. That's probably following people in that space. That's probably connecting with people who are a little bit further down the line in terms of experience, so you can learn from them around what's important, then sharing maybe some articles that you find interesting about your space as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And one last question before we wrap up. Cheryl has asked, what is your recommendation for someone who has two distinctly different skills that they use exclusively? Should we have two separate profiles or try and connect them somehow? The concern being it may take away from one or the other.
Yeah, good question. So this is a common challenge for a lot of people. And what I would encourage people to do is to embrace both. So in the headline, I would say, literally say the two areas that you focus on, unless they are completely conflicting. So in a couple of rare cases, I've worked with a few individuals where they were doing one thing and then they're actually doing another thing, and they both didn't marry or work with one another that well. That's in a very rare case, in my opinion. In this modern age, there's so much transferability between industries and jobs. And so depending on what it is that you want to, again, pursue, can predict, having a brand that encapsulates both of those things. I wouldn't recommend having separate profiles. That'll just make it confusing for people. You might want to channel maybe one of those efforts into one profile, and then maybe use another social media profile, not LinkedIn, something else to channel the other thing. Maybe you might want to, let's say, for example, if I had a YouTube channel and my YouTube channel talked about barbecuing, right? Sorry for any vegetarians on the call, but if it was barbecuing and that was my thing that I wanted to channel, I may have on my LinkedIn profile, barbecue YouTube channel as one small little thing. But then on my barbecue YouTube channel, I would go hard on that particular topic. I wouldn't focus on anything else. Okay. So again, it depends on what brand you want to create for yourself in what marketplace. So again, I would either go, cool, am I combining both of these on my LinkedIn profile, or am I going one on my LinkedIn profile and then using another platform like a personal website, YouTube channel, X, whatever it is, to focus on the other thing?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tyson. That's been great. And I think, this has been a really great webinar tonight. We had about 110, I think, in attendance. So I'll get slides and pop the recording up as well for people. A lot of people have been going, oh, we've missed this and this. And I'm like, it's okay. The slides are coming, so you can head back. So, and thank you for, giving up your night too, Tyson, to talk about LinkedIn, because it is a really important platform to use, but to use correctly if you're wanting to, really push yourself in the right way professionally. So thank you again. And thank you to Damien co-hosting tonight. And thank you to everyone who turned up. We've got quite a lot of really great other events coming up for the rest of the year. So check it out on Eventbrite. And we will definitely have Tyson back for another career development webinar at some point. Feel free to email alumni@acap.edu.au with some career development topics that you would like to have Tyson come and guide us on and provide some more information on. So thank you to everyone. Thank you, Tyson. Take care, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Cassie. Thanks, Damien.
Thanks all.
Bye all.